This story begins in a world where ancestors gave people powers, but they eventually disappeared. Monsters appeared in their place, and the world has become extremely dangerous. Adventure is now entering dungeons to fight these beasts in the hopes of restoring peace. Our protagonist, Alina, begins her day by getting ready for work and making a commitment to give her all. Alina is a guild receptionist, and the safety it comes with makes it the ideal job for her. She just stands around while smiling at adventurers, and eventually she gets to go home. One day, everyone is amazed as the one known as the Raging Blade arrives. Alina is greatly irritated by Ganzu, a guild elite, for his habit of dragging his large, massive feet. Ganzu announces that he will be taking on the Hellflame Drag and shocking everyone. No adventurer has been able to complete the quest, so that is why they have turned to Ganzu. Alina asks him for his guild ID, but Gans is insulted as he reminds her that he is a member of the guild's top party, the Silver Sword. Alina gets frustrated because she just wants to do her job, but she hides it and politely explains that to Ganzu. Ganzu cleverly tries to show his face instead, but Alina eventually forces him to hand over his ID. With that settled, Alina sees that there's still a super long line, but she reminds herself to put on her customer service face. That night, all the adventurers get hammered at a bar, but Alina's stuck pushing paperwork back at the guild. She wants to clock out and go home, and she imagines all the relaxing things she could do. This procrastinating pro thinks about leaving all this work for future Alina, but she realizes that it will just keep piling up. She wants to make sure that she at least clocks out on time tomorrow, so she slams down some Red Bull and goes into hyperdrive. It turns out that all this overtime is falling on her because of the Hellflame Dragon. Monsters keep appearing out of its dungeon because no one can defeat it. Adventurers will just keep accepting quests to defeat those monsters until someone defeats the boss. Because of this, Alina has to deal with the endless customers during the day and endless paperwork at night. She is at her wit's end, so she unleashes a barrage of profanity at the Hellfire Dragon for ruining her life. If someone would just defeat it, she could get her peace back. Alina's frustration reaches a critical level, as she harbors a deep-seated aversion to working overtime and is determined to ensure she clocks out punctually. Down in the deepest part of the dungeon, the Silver Sword battles the Hellfire Dragon. The leader, Jade, does well to protect his party. But Ganzu's attack does nothing to the giant dungeon boss. The dragon sends Ganzu flying into oblivion, so their healer heals him, but Jade's magic attack also proves to be futile. Ganzu gives up as he realizes that he's simply not strong enough for the beast, and Jay decides that they must retreat just as a mysterious adventurer whose identity is completely unknown barges in. Jay instructs her to flee for her life, but she disregards his advice and instead uses her skill to summon a weapon. Summoning a weapon that way is pretty shocking to Jade, and the girl angrily charges at the dragon while cursing it out. It's clearly our protagonist that she takes to the air while blaming the dragon for her being stuck in overtime hell, and her attack actually manages to hurt the beast. She deflects its counterattack, persisting in her use of profanity to her deep-seated resentment towards the dragon for forcing her to clock out late. The dragon takes to the air to unleash its most powerful attack, but it doesn't affect Alina at all. After seeing a curse word so vulgar that it has to be censored in the subtitles, Alina unleashes her final blow, and the giant beast is completely defeated. Those in Silver Sword are stunned, and Jade wonders if this mystery person is actually the legendary Executioner, the mysterious adventurer who's able to solo the bosses of dungeons that no one else can conquer. Adventurers normally fight in parties, but the Executioner does everything alone. The beast is defeated, but all Alina cares about is that she will finally be able to go home on time. She turns to leave and Jade is shocked to get a glimpse of her face. The next day, Alina is horrified as she has done it again. Her little escapade has landed her in the newspaper. The guild wants to find the executioner at all costs. Gans is retiring from Silver Sword, so the guild wants her to be Silver Sword's new attacker. Just and Alina must deny knowing anything about the executioner. Her buddy Layla is a huge fan, and she is sure that the Silver Sword would be invincible if the executioner joined. No one knows her identity, so Layla hopes that she is found soon. Of course, if it were discovered that Alina had been soloing dungeon bosses with a fake license card, killed the receptionist, and couldn't have any side job, she would face immediate termination. The job does have its downfalls, but it gives Alina great benefits. It provides good security and employment for life. Best of all, she gets to go home at the same time every day as long as there is no overtime. That's actually why she became a receptionist in the first place. So she refuses to let her life end now by getting found out. At guild headquarters, Jay desperately searches for the girl he saw that night. His party questions if it could really be a girl because the executioner's weapon is so huge, but Jade is certain she is a girl with black hair and green eyes, and she is young. Jade's friends think he's too fixated on her, but Jade asks for a little more time because he really needs to find her. While his teammates wait, they go find some healthy snacks. Lulu complains about napping too much, but he can't help it because he stays up all night studying grimoires. Elsewhere, a guy with facial tattoos is enraged after being made fun of. He vows to get revenge, but some terrifying skeleton man approaches him. Nearby, Jade stares at the relic that was dropped by the Hellfire. Dragon relics have the Dia mark on them, signifying that it contains the techniques of the ancestors. They grant powers to anyone who uses them, and any adventurer would die to have one. But the executioner didn't seem to care at all. Also, the power she used wasn't like the Dia techniques. Jade is shocked when he thinks she might have what is known as a Dia skill, so he vows to find her no matter what. Just then, a strange wind brings his attention to a girl, and he is shocked to see that she looks just like the executioner. Jade quickly follows her, and is in disbelief as she walks into the Adventurers Guild. Inside, Alina is relieved that there aren't many adventures to deal with today. Jade casually walks in to greet her, but Alina can't understand why Silver Sword's leader is here. She fears that he might be investigating the executioner, and she wonders if he already figured her out. Alina calms herself down as she remembers that her face was covered and she uses a fake name on her license. There should be no way anyone could find her. Jade explains that he saw someone using an incredible warhammer, and he wonders if she knows anything about it. Of course, Alina denies even knowing the name, and she tries to go ask someone. Jade doesn't let her, however, as he explains that he has really sharp eyes and he got a good look at the girl's face. Jade already knows Alina's name and she freaks out. She thought her hood was enough to hide her face, especially in that dark dungeon. Her cover is blown, however, and Jade says that he never expected the executioner to be a guild receptionist. Alina dramatically says goodbye to her life as a guild receptionist, but she reminds herself that the job is too stable and secure to just give up on. Alina calmly puts on her customer service face and tells Jade that this is not the appropriate place to talk. They take their conversation to an alley where Jade gives her the spoils of her battle. Alina expresses great gratitude and explains that the strength and durability of relics are unmatched. She accentuates their near indestructibility, only to shatter them into a million pieces mere seconds later. Jade is stunned to see that she smashed the relic with a single hand, and Alina calmly explains that she just wants to live a peaceful life as a guild receptionist. Alina then ditches the fake smile to warn that she will make him regret it if he interferes with her quest for peace. She starts cursing like a sailor again as she threatens to squash Jade, just like she did to the dragon. Her final message is for him to get away from her as fast as he can, and she never wants to see his face ever again. Alina tries to leave, but the brave Jade uses his skill to stop her. He can make anything he touches harden, but this really upsets Alina. She summons her weapon and shows how serious she is as Jade just barely manages to dodge her attack. Jade is horrified, but Alina is serious about not letting her guild receptionist career, and Jade manages to make her pause for a moment as he wonders where she got her weapon from. He thinks it might be a Dia skill, but that should be impossible. They are skills of legend, and it is said that they died along with the ancestors. Alina is indifferent and is determined to persist in her battles. However, Jade is not present to engage in combat. He declares that he wants Alina, but she threatens to sue him for harassment. Jade confesses that he hasn't been able to stop thinking about her since the battle, and he needs her to be the attacker for Silver Sword. Alina has had enough and reiterates that she just wants to live a peaceful life as a good receptionist. Jade thinks he's being clever when he points out that if she really just wanted to live a peaceful life, then she wouldn't have soloed a dungeon boss. He is shocked, however, when Alina explains that she just didn't want to work overtime. Jade has no clue what she's talking about, so Alina describes the despair of seeing endless mountains of paperwork. She was stuck in overtime hell because losers like Jade kept dragging their feet. They were taking forever to defeat the dragon, so she had no choice but to finish the job. She was able to get her regular clock-out time back with her own 2 hands, and now she's being punished by people trying to uncover her identity. Jade thinks he has the perfect solution, as he says that she won't have to work overtime if she joins Silver Sword, but Alina points out that's only because there's no clock-out time for adventurers. Alina finally makes it clear that she has no intentions of joining Silver Sword, and she leaves. However, before she goes, she declares that she will make Jade regret it if he ever speaks a word of this to anyone. Alina finally returns to her peaceful job and declares that nothing beats clocking out on time. She can now do whatever she wants after work and even have time to stop by a cake store. Just then, these dreams of hers are crushed as the tattooed guy barges into the guild. He demands that he be given a secret quest, and Alina fears that this guy might lead to more overtime for her. Face tattoo guy keeps yelling, so Alina steps forward to explain that they don't handle any sort of secret quests. The rude guy calls Alina some pretty bad names, and she thinks about how secret quests are just a rumor that took off among adventurers. They don't actually exist, and she puts on her polite receptionist face to make it clear to the guy. The guy doesn't like her tone, and Alina considers just knocking him out. He keeps calling her the B word and reminds her that he is a customer of the guild. This psycho is about to punch Alina, but Jade arrives to stop him. Tattoo Face's real name is Slay, and he decides to pick a fight with the playboy leader of Silver Sword. Jade just ends up embarrassing this guy and warns him to never touch Alina ever again. Jade quickly catches himself before saying her actual name, however, and just calls her a receptionist. Slay leaves after being taught a lesson, but he vows to get his revenge. Jade warns Alina that there are many dangerous people around, so she needs to be careful. Alina agrees and thanks Sam, but she's more interested in knowing what the Silver Sword leader is doing here. Jade realizes that she is threatening his life, so he says he was just passing by and gets out of there. The next day, Alina can't believe that someone found out her real identity. Jade is concerned about jeopardizing her tranquil job as a receptionist, and she contemplates whether she should gently discipline him to ensure his silence. She quickly realizes that Jade is actually a pretty big deal, so if she did something to him, she would probably be fired anyway. She doesn't know what to do and wishes she could just stay in bed forever. Regrettably, her safe and stable job as a receptionist was the only reason she could afford to make a down payment for this house. This helps Alina regain her focus as she declares that working at the guild is the best job ever, and she has to make sure that she doesn't get fired. Later, Alina's annoyed because Jade keeps hanging out by the quest board. Now he shows up during her lunch break, so she wastes no time in summoning her warhammer. This is the one chance she gets to be alone, but Jade desperately wants to know when her Dia skill was first awakened. Alina refuses to tell him a single thing, but Jade keeps insisting. He explains that the conditions for skill awakening are still unknown, and it's very rare. He wonders why she's letting her skill go to waste by being a receptionist, but Alina's barely paying attention to him. She simply says that it doesn't matter how much time he spends at the guild, she will never join Silver Sword. Alina leaves, but even she wonders why the gods chose to give a guild receptionist a skill. A flashback reveals that it all happened 2 years ago. There was an annual festival that would last for 3 days and 3 nights. Alina had just started her job as a receptionist, and she wasn't used to it yet, so she had to work overtime every day. She desperately wanted to go to the festival, but she had tons of work left. It is said that the person who wishes the most fervently during the festival is granted Dia's blessing. Alina tried her hardest to convince Dia not to allow her to work overtime again, but her request was unsuccessful. It was only hours later that Alina was finally done, and she was able to check out the festival. Unfortunately, it was all over by then. Alina began to cry and she worked her hardest, but in the end, She wasn't even able to enjoy the festival for even 1 second. This is when she began to resent the guild, the useless adventurers who can't even beat a boss, and the bosses that won't die. This is when she started to hate everything that makes her end up working overtime. Alina couldn't hold back the tears that she would take anything that would get her out of doing more overtime. She wanted a lot of power. That way she could destroy all the things responsible for keeping her from clocking out on time. It was in that moment that she received Adia's blessing. Back to the present, Slay thinks about getting his revenge on the back-talking receptionist. Just then, he seems intrigued as some adventurers shock everyone by bringing back a raid boss. Elsewhere, Jade contemplates how he can entice Alina to spend more time with him. He quickly corrects himself, however, and reminds himself that he's supposed to be convincing her to join Silver Sword. Just then, he must rush off as chaos erupts, and we see that the raid boss is terrorizing the city. This thing is doing major damage, and it's about to smash some injured adventurers, but Jade takes the hit with this Hester ability. Jade tells him to run to safety, but they are worried about him. Raid bosses are extremely powerful, and they fear that Jade won't be able to beat it alone. The adventurers put it to sleep so they can bring it back for materials, but it just started going crazy. Jess and Slave reveal that he's using his power to control the monster while it sleeps. He plans to destroy the entire city along with Jade and the annoying Guild Receptionist. Jade refuses to let him have his way and uses his shield to block the boss's attack. It doesn't matter if it's a raid boss or not, Jade vows to block everything. At the Gale, Delina is furious with her boss because he gave her a bunch of work that will end up in another day of overtime. Just then, she hears the chaos outside and is not surprised to see that Tattoo Face is behind it. She doesn't react with much urgency, but all that changes when one of the monster rocks flies in a certain direction. She rushes off and desperately hopes that it didn't land where she thinks it did. Unfortunately for her, she arrives home to find that the rock smashed right through her roof. It's a horrifying sight as Alina only had 3 years left on her mortgage. Things get even worse as a giant rock makes its way into her first floor. Elena's dismay quickly turns to anger as she summons her weapon and she curses Slay. Back at the town center, we see that Slay has taken out several adventures. Jade realizes that they don't have enough fighters to take on the raid boss and he doesn't know what to do. Just then, Alina comes flying out of the sky and she chops the raid boss's arm off with one attack. Slay is amused to see that the executioner has arrived, and he points out that the guild has been in a frenzy looking for her. He is sure that they would be furious if he ends her life, so that's what he plans to do. His laughter quickly stops, however, when he sees how angry she is. Alina is furious as she explains that her house was the one comfort she had when she was exhausted from work. It was her own personal heaven, and she vows to end Slay's life for him. Death will be his reward for destroying her paradise. She goes in for her attack, so Slay desperately instructs the golem to knock her out of the air. It's too late, however, as she obliterates the giant beast with a single attack. Slay fears for his life as she approaches him, and he tells her to get away. Alina isn't listening to him, however, and she pities him for never being taught not to break other people's things. It's too late for him now as she unleashes a barrage of curse words and she slams her hammer down on him. To everyone's surprise, however, she spared Slay's life. Later, Jade feels bad for Alina after losing her house, and she doesn't know what to do from here. Jade seizes the opportunity and boldly inquires about the possibility of spending the night at his place. Alina tells the idiot to stop making dumb jokes because she will obviously be staying at an inn. She will have to do even more overtime now because of Slay, so she just wants to be left alone. Back at the scene of the fight, a man is grateful that the executioner saved the city. However, he says that her coming here was a major mistake, and he uses his ability to do something. Back at the guild, Alina's once again stuck doing overtime. Jade does his best to try and cheer her up, but Alina wonders why he's even here. She keeps telling him to go away, but he just wants to make sure that she will be okay after what happened. Alina then remembers that Jade is still a high-ranking official, so he does have the right to be in the office. After working for some time, Jade believes it's time to end the day. Alina pities this overtime rookie as she explains that there have been many days when she wasn't up to doing all the work. Days when she thought she could save it for another day when she had more motivation. However, she quickly realized that this just meant that tomorrow Alina would have to deal with today. Alina's laziness. More importantly, she will never have the motivation to do overtime. Alina always tries to get the work done as soon as possible in the hopes that she will get the clock out on time. The day after, Jade finishes up some more paperwork and Alina's done to see that he did it perfectly. This makes her wonder if he's the capable type that can do anything right the first time with minimal instruction. This annoys her to no end because she is the clumsy type that has to make every mistake before learning something. Alina then imagines herself letting out all her frustration. She has spent years getting to this point, but this guy, Jade, just walked in and is already great at the job. People like him make her the most upset, and she wonders why the world is so unfair. Jade tries to say that it was all because she's a good teacher, and he offers to finish the rest of the work. Unfortunately, Alina's pride as a receptionist who won't allow that. Jade looks for some of his sweets to help her feel better, but he's surprised to find that some of the relics she crushed are back in his bag. The word quest order is written on it, and it begins to shine. A display appears, and it reveals a quest. The location is the Chalk Tower, and the completion criteria is to defeat all the floor bosses. The two of them have never heard of the Chalk Tower before, but Alina doesn't really care. It's his weird rock thing after all, and she is sure that Jade and the Silver Sword can take care of it. It just looks like one big headache to her, so Jade decides that he will have to look into it. The next day, Alina can't believe that it happened again. The executioner is in the news, and Layla fawns over her. Alina is not amused, but she fears that her attitude might have made Layla suspicious. Luckily, Layla isn't very smart, and she just wonders if Alina is a fan of the executioner as well. Layla's convinced that the executioner is actually a hot guy, and he's the hero that saved the city. He's incredibly cool because he never reveals himself, not even to collect bounties. Layla wishes he would hit her with this big hammer, but she corrects her disgusting comment by saying that she wishes he would protect her. To make things even better, he even fought alongside Jade. She says that their duo is made up of the hottest tank and the hottest attacker. A while later, Glenn, the guildmaster, enters the guild. He has taken an interest in the executioner, and for some reason, he looks right at Alina. He's glad to hear that she's doing well, and he wonders if she's familiar with the skill he has. Alina, of course, is, as it's called, Chronos, and it stops time in a location. It also allows him to observe events of the past. Glenn compliments her for being a great receptionist and knowing her stuff, but Alina realizes that this is terrible for her. If Glenn wanted to, he could turn back time at the town center to see the executioner's face just. And Glenn gets very serious as he tells Alina that they shouldn't talk here, and he instructs her to come to the guild headquarters. Alina is utterly shocked at headquarters, certain that Glenn is aware of her secret. She had a feeling it would happen eventually, and now she will be fired. Jade tries to calm her down by saying that Glenn is very understanding and he might be lenient. Alina doesn't want to hear anything from Jade, and she calls him a tattletale. Jade promises that he didn't say a single word about her secret, but Alina isn't having it. She hates this nerd and hopes that he stubs his pinky toe on a dresser and falls off a cliff. This really hits Jade hard, as he relied on convincing himself that Lulu didn't hate him. It's been pretty clear that she has hated him from the start. Below says that they shouldn't kick a man when he's down. It's pretty clear that he's in love, but this surprises Lulu because Jade has ignored every girl that tried to come on to him. She doesn't think there's any hope for him. Below reminds her to be more gentle. Alina meets with Glenn and he's amazed that she's able to look just like an ordinary receptionist. Glenn says he was stunned when his skill showed him the executioner's face, but Alina just wants to know what it has to do with her. Jess and Glenn lets out a menacing laugh and challenges the executioner to a duel. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about this anime recap by liking, sharing, and commenting, and please subscribe to the channel to help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Take you